About half the states in the country are still shut down. The Department of Justice warns if their stay-at-home orders are too restrictive, it will intervene. I'm Jessie Tenor in Washington, and I'll have that story coming up.
A plan from Democrats to put money in the pockets of Americans furloughed during the pandemic. I'm Basil John reporting in Washington why some lawmakers want to use this plan going forward instead of the Paycheck Protection Program.
I'm Alexandra Limon. The U.S. Senate is scheduled to return to Washington next week. Their focus will be how to rescue the economy. I'll have details about the battle that's brewing ahead.
Alabama is reopening parts of the economy. I'm Kelly Meyer reporting from Washington how some lawmakers are reacting to the governor's latest order.
I'm Trevor Shirley in Washington, where the debate continues over whether or not Congress can vote from home. I've got that story coming up.
I'm Anna Warnicki in Washington. Lawmakers say they approved billions of dollars to help rural hospitals. But so far, those hospitals haven't seen a dime. I'll have that story coming up.
I know that common sense is illegal in Washington, D.C., but it's apparently illegal also in some state capitals.
Louisiana Senator John Kennedy says he applauds Attorney General William Barr's threat to intervene if state stay-at-home orders tread on constitutional rights.
We are on the lookout for restrictions that are too widespread, too generalized.
Kennedy has some in mind, specifically Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's initial stay-at-home order. It prohibited activities like motorized boating, but allowed rowboating, and shut down garden centers and big box retailers.
That's 3 gallons of crazy.
This week, Whitmer lifted those restrictions, but extended the overall stay-at-home order until May 15th.
Most Michiganders are doing their part by staying home and staying safe. It's good, but we must keep it up.
While Kennedy is eager to reopen his state now, Louisiana's governor extended the stay-at-home order another 2 weeks, and other members of Congress are urging their governors to take a gradual approach.
Healthy people create healthy economies, and we have to have both.
Congresswoman Terry Sewell's home state of Alabama started to reopen its economy Friday with a 2-week transitional period,
taking into account the size and the nature of the business.
In a Q&A session on Twitter, Barr voiced the Trump administration's impatience.
It's time to start rolling back some of these restrictions in an orderly and sensible way.
About half the states in the country remain largely shut down. In Washington, I'm Jessie Tenor.
Democrat senators want the government to pay the wages and benefits of furloughed employees.
Have the government directly pay a portion of people's salary during the economic challenge.
Virginia Senator Mark Warner, along with 3 other Democrats, call it the Paycheck Security Program, something they say is modeled after a system used in some European countries.
In those countries, they've only seen a slight increase in unemployment because the government has gone ahead and just directly paid the paychecks for a percentage of each worker's salary.
If passed, the program will cover salaries and wages for employees who make less than $90,000 and overhead operating expenses like rent and utilities for businesses shut down by the coronavirus crisis. Alabama Senator Doug Jones says this approach will help open the economy safely.
This will give businesses and the individuals that cushion necessary so that we can do it the right way and not try to rush it and open and get businesses going when it's too early to do so.
Senator Warner says he thinks this is a better method than the current Paycheck Protection Program that relies on banks to distribute funds.
Let's just, make it simpler, make it easier to understand, cut out the middleman.
Warner says he's hoping to gain Republican support and knows some members of the opposing party that are preparing their own similar plans. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
To better prepare for future pandemics, lawmakers from both parties say the U.S. must put more pressure on China.
We need to hold China accountable for the lack of transparency.
Democrat Ro Khanna says Beijing's refusal to allow international health inspectors into Wuhan slowed the global response to COVID-19.
We need to make at better international norms so that that kind of irresponsible behavior doesn't happen again.
The WHO should have absolute authority to move into a country when there's an outbreak.
Congresswoman Jackie Spears says China should contribute more to fund the World Health Organization and says the U.S. response should be more than just rhetoric.
A rebuke or condemnation seems like words and nothing more.
They should have to pay for the damage they have done for the world.
Republican leaders like Kevin McCarthy say China should be held financially responsible. That means possible tariffs and cutting our dependence on Chinese manufacturing.
Many businesses have lost their hopes, their dreams. We should hold them financially accountable.
Republican Doug LaMalfa says American consumers have a role to play.
I think you're going to see a bigger push than you have in a long time to buy American-made, American-grown.
But says any measures Congress takes toward China should be cautious.
Still need to be somewhat diplomatic and play it smart because they have leverage over us, unfortunately.
President Trump hinted there may be consequences for China, but hasn't said what they'll be. In Washington, I'm Joe Khalil.
As Alabama's governor starts the process of reopening the state, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are applauding her cautious approach.
She is resisting the pressure to call for a complete reopening.
Democratic Alabama Senator Doug Jones commended Governor Kay Ivey for her safer-at-home order that went into effect Thursday night. The order opened some retail stores, but unlike neighboring states, keeps fitness centers, hair salons, and restaurants closed. Republican Congresswoman Martha Roby says she was grateful for Ivey's measured approach that prioritizes the health and safety of all Alabamians. Governor Ivey asked members of Congress for their input on how to reopen the state, but not all suggestions were taken.
My recommendation was that she would open up all of the economy of Alabama, with the exception of things like bars.
Alabama Congressman Bradley Burns says it was a controversial decision to keep restaurants closed, and he hopes Ivey will consider reopening in the next 2 weeks. But Democrats caution
that we continue to practice social distancing.
Alabama Congresswoman Terry Sewell and Senator Jones both say an increase in testing is needed for a complete reopening. Jones is asking the White House for a national inventory of test supplies and a detailed plan for addressing shortages.
Quite frankly, the answers that we've been getting on those issues from the White House has not been good.
Reporting in Washington, I'm Kelly Meyer.
Democrats say many Americans need help beyond the multi-trillion-dollar coronavirus relief packages.
I'm leading the charge for a big structural change, actually, in childcare. We need to help working families.
Oregon Congresswoman Suzanne Bonamici wants a guaranteed income for all Americans.
$2,000 a month during the pandemic.
Nevada Congresswoman Dina Titus says many immigrants who pay taxes have received no assistance.
People with ITIN numbers pay $13 billion a year in taxes.
But because they use individual tax ID numbers instead of Social Security numbers, they did not receive stimulus checks. Then there are the small towns with populations under 500,000. They did not get direct aid from the federal government. Even states and major cities that did get federal dollars are in trouble because of major losses in tax revenue. But Republican Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota says there might already be enough federal money in the pipeline
to really help those states that have seen a drop in their revenue and that still want to be able to pay their teachers, still want to take care of law enforcement, and they don't want to have to raise taxes.
Rounds suggests Congress allow 25% of the money already approved to be used to replace local tax revenue lost because of the coronavirus-related shutdowns. In Washington, Alexandra Limon.
I think some hospitals are having a very difficult time.
Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar says Congress approved billions of dollars in the latest CARES Act to help rural hospitals.
They got to make sure they have the equipment, the PPEs.
But Texas Republican Roger Williams says the rural hospitals haven't seen a dime. In a letter on Friday, Williams asked Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar to activate the funds immediately, saying, quote, "The entire healthcare system is strained to the breaking point. Rural America is under enormous pressure." The CARES Act includes $75 billion for hospitals across the country, and the administration says $10 billion will go specifically to rural healthcare providers.
That will allow them to survive and remain viable, but also to maintain their service to their community.
Still, Texas Republican Congressman Jody Arrington says that's not enough.
I think everybody wants more.
Texas Democrat Lloyd Doggett says rural hospitals can't wait any longer.
So many of our hospitals that were under great threat before this pandemic ever happened, now they have declining revenues and increased needs.
Secretary Azar says the money will be distributed in waves. Last week, Azar said the approximately 2,000 rural hospitals across the country will be included in the second round of funding. In Washington, I'm Anna Warnicki.
In a world where it's no longer safe to be within 6 feet of each other, Congress has to learn how to adapt.
On a teleconference committee hearing this week, Ohio Senator Rob Portman said Congress needs a plan to vote remotely.
Today, our gathering itself is really part of our case.
That case, Portman told me on the phone Friday, is that no matter what, Congress has to keep the government going.
There is off-the-shelf technology to be able to allow this to happen.
Ohio Representative Tim Ryan agrees and says security concerns shouldn't stop Congress from coming up with a plan.
We hear about potential threats interrupting those votes, but we do Facebook Live every day, right? So you can see and know what the member of Congress voted.
The House scrapped plans to return to Washington next week, but the Senate still will. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said previously the Senate can meet safely.
We will deal with the social distancing issue without fundamentally changing the Senate rules.
Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown supports remote voting and says Congress returning puts others at risk.
It's also putting our staffs and the cleaning crews that come in and the police officers that come in, it puts them at risk.
Some also worry about remote voting becoming the normal process.
I think this should be just used during times when we cannot come together or should not come together.
But remote voting would only happen when congressional leadership agrees to it. Reporting in Washington, I'm Trevor Shirley.
Like lots of New Yorkers, Winifred Pardo died alone in quarantine of the new coronavirus.
New York City is one big neighborhood right now, and so many people are dying. The rest of us want to do something.
Because flower stores and embroidery shops are considered non-essential, Brooklyn funeral director Amy Cunningham turned to her neighborhood Google group.
Ordinarily, I would take it to a machine embroiderer to have the word mom embroidered on it, but because everybody's closed, I put the word out in my neighborhood that I needed an embroiderer, and a beautiful woman stepped forward.
That woman was Rebecca Bankiot.
So I was moved that they're not able to be in attendance for the funeral, so I hope that this is some small way to contribute and know that other people are thinking about them.
She gave the embroidery to Cunningham, whom she had never met.
I can't believe it worked out.
Cunningham placed it carefully on Winifred Pardo's casket. Her daughter Beth says it helped turn a lonely time into a feeling of community.
To find connection is helping me get through it. And I think it has turned what felt very stark and harsh and lonely to this beautiful thing. This is like a poetic, beautiful thing.
The family was not able to attend the funeral in New York because of the pandemic.
We were advised that you could have one person at the burial only from the family, and we didn't want to have any one of us separated from other family.
The service and burial were live streamed. Pardo and her daughter Zoe spoke lovingly of their mother and grandmother and played musical tributes at the funeral from 100 miles away in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
I think she would have loved it. I mean, this was like probably her dream come true. You know, the only
difference is that she wasn't here, and I think that would be the only difference that she would want.
Coming together virtually in a time of death. Ted Shaffrey, Associated Press.
It was horrible. I was imagining everything, trying to imagine what life would be like with only my other 2 children. What I would have to tell people when they ask you, how many children do you have? Do you say you have 3 children but you lost 1, or do you just say you have 2?
Juliet came as one of the sickest children we've taken care of with COVID-19, and she presented with severely decreased heart function. She had a cardiac arrest after she was intubated and had CPR for about 2 minutes.
I was thinking about how my husband wouldn't get the chance to walk her down the aisle. I was thinking how she wouldn't have the chance to fall in love or get married or have kids or, experience all the wonderful things in life. And I was thinking, I'm 44, I've done all those things and I've lived a full life, and God, just take me instead.
So right now her heart function is completely normal. If I looked at her echocardiogram compared to any other kids, it looks identical, which is great. We do know she probably had a little bit of trauma to her heart, but that over time should be less important. And I'd expect her to have a totally normal life from this.
I died and came back.
It was devastating. Thank God it worked out okay, because it was the worst.
And why last night I announced that all LA County residents are eligible to get tested at one of our City of Los Angeles testing sites. Priority will still continue to be given to our highest risk individuals. We'll never let the opening up of new tests take away the priority of those who need it the most. But as long as we have more tests available, we should never let any go unused each day.
Good, now stick it into the Ziploc bag.
Thank you.
Oh, I tried to sign up. It gave me a thing that there were no appointments left. If I had gotten the appointment, I wouldn't have gotten tested because I'm not waiting in that line. Oh, the line is insane. It's 2 blocks around from both directions.
I need help. They help me. For my children, for my husband. I need help. I have newborn baby, 6 months pikin. I have nothing, no money to take care of them.
So we go anywhere between 200 route sheets to 900 route sheets a day. There's roughly 6 addresses on each route sheet, and each address gets about 2 sets of food. And 2 sets of food is about 9 meals per box.
Make you feel good. It's like helping people. The people get stuck at home, and they have no food, no jobs, no nothing. You helping them, and the city helping us, and we help each other. That's it, to pass this crisis. Back in September 11, I was driving yellow cab. I was not like this. The coronavirus, this city completely shut down. First time I seen the city like that.
Every morning you come here early because if you don't come early, you don't get nothing, because you gotta come, take the line, and then wait when time open. You have to pay the car, you have to pay your bill, pay your house. Nothing. You have to come here and get something like $100, $150, whatever. People are hungry. People need the food. When they come, they thank you very much. You say, I do my best. Whatever you send me, I go. Food delivery.
they're doing extraordinary care in a horrible situation.
I think just encourages us to keep doing what we're doing and stay home and social distance, and let's flatten the curve.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still